Greetings, Mr. Henry here. Now I've got a few minutes until my next class, so I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about some things that I've heard students having a bit of trouble with, and that is drainage patterns. Alright, now drainage refers to the types of water-based bodies that are on the land. Now when we automatically think of the word drainage, we think about when maybe the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink or maybe even the bath that when we pull up the stopper and the water just flows down very quickly. I do apologize. Yeah, I'm a little bit under the weather, so my voice may be fluctuating like that. But if we believe it, we can achieve it, so let's get into it. Now, as I said, we think of drainage as the sink, the kitchen sink, or the outside washing room sink. If you're Jamaican, I may have an outside washing room, or maybe the bath. So when you pull the stopper out and the water goes down, it goes down and it disappears. For all intents and purposes, it disappears. Now, if you don't have a free-flowing sink, then, well, if something is stuck in the pipe or is blocking the drains, then the water might not flow out so well. So therefore, I'm going to use that analogy to explain drainage. So drainage refers to the water bodies or how water is taken away from a landscape. So if water is taken away or carried away in rivers, then we would say that is a good drainage because the water is being taken away. Now, if the water is not being taken away, that means the water is stagnant, or it collects in pools or ponds or swamps or marshes, then we might say that is poor drainage because the water isn't going anywhere. Just like if something is blocking the drains of your kitchen sink, then we'd say that is poor drainage, or we might have to call a plumber, or we might have to get something like Drano or acid. Even though plumbers advise that those things will actually destroy the PVC, so we shouldn't use it. But oftentimes we use these things to get rid of the blockage in the drains so that the water can free flow away. So if there are a lot of rivers on a landscape or on a map, then that means good drainage because the water is being taken off the land, it's being carried away. But if the water is not going anywhere and it collects in pools and ponds and swamps, then we say that it's poor drainage, etc. Geographers in general, they have observed that there are at least 3 main types of ways that the water is taken off this landscape. So they have observed 3 main ways. I know the books and the internet will tell you that there are more, but definitely there are 3 main ways that water is carried off the landscape. I hope I'm making sense to you. Alright, so the first type of way is called dendritic. Dendritic. Now, this word comes from the Latin word dendron, and dendron means tree. Why are we associating dendritic with trees? Or why are we associating this pattern with trees? That's because when you look at a dendritic pattern on a landscape, automatically you start to visualize. Maybe if it had why is my marker failing? So maybe if it had that green area all around it, it will look like a tree. And this looks like the main trunk of the tree, and these are the branches of the tree. Cool? So this is what a dendritic drainage pattern looks like. Rivers, the streams, they're coming from all around, and they're flowing into the main river. Now these smaller areas, they are known as tributaries. So this would be the main river, and these would be tributaries. Now tributaries are smaller rivers that flow into a larger river or a main river. A distributary would be a smaller river or stream that flows out of a large river. Now I just thought I'd mention that since we're on the topic. So tributaries, smaller rivers that join into the course and join into the main river. The area, so I'm touching on a few things. So these are tributaries. This area where the rivers join is known as a confluence. Confluence. So where you have two rivers merging together at a point, that is known as a confluence. So all these, when the rain falls on the landscape and the water starts to move under the force of gravity all over the landscape, through the landscape, cutting into the landscape and carving its own path, then all these minor rivulets, tiny rivers, or, well, I won't even say tiny rivers because the river might look very big if you look at it, but when it compared to the large river that it is going to join, then it would be a much smaller stream. Alright, so for example, several rivers in Jamaica are, verified rivers of their own. They are like big rivers, but they may join into, like for example, some of the rivers that join into the Black River or create the Black River. There's a reason Black River is like the largest river in Jamaica, because many other rivers join into it or flow into it. So this pattern is created because this landscape is of a uniform type. So it's a uniform geological type, or a homogeneous. Homogeneous means that it's one type of rock. So therefore, the waterways have equal opportunity to go anywhere it wants to go because it's the same type of rock and it might have the same type of erosive effect. So the water flows anywhere on this landscape. The landscape does not fully influence where the water wants to go. Gravity might influence where the water wants to go. Now, if you look at this as a geographer, I would know which direction the water is flowing into. But do you know which direction the water is flowing? Do you think it is flowing up this way? No, water doesn't flow like that. Water flows downwards, or water does not flow against gravity. So water will not, unless powered, water will not flow up a hill. So we know that it is flowing downwards and joining this main river here. So this is what a dendritic pattern looks like. It looks like a tree. Main trunk of the tree, and these are the branches. And the water will be flowing in this general direction. Now the next type of homogeneous type of rock, river goes anywhere it wants to, because it's an equal opportunity for the river to carve into the landscape because it's the same geological structure or the same type of rock. Now when there are different types of rock, for example, a rock that is hard or more resistant, and then there's a rock adjacent to it that is less resistant or softer, then where do the water will go? There's hard rock and there's soft rock. Which one do you think the water would erode faster? Of course, you're bright students. The water would erode the soft rock. So in that case, the structure of the area or the landscape, the geological type of the landscape influences greatly where the water will flow. So let's say this is hard rock and that is soft rock. Hard rock, like the cafe. Well, yeah, I guess. I hope some of you actually. If rainwater goes on this landscape and the water starts to move under the force of gravity and starts to establish itself upon the landscape, try to find its way, it would try to cut through the hard rock, but it will have a greater time trying to cut through. Eventually, water cuts through anything. So don't care how hard you are, you understand? Water will try to cut through you. And will, if given enough time, water, like for example, you may see a place where water is dripping and it's dripping on the floor. So even if this floor was asphalt and the water is dripping, if given enough time, that water will chip away until there will be a big pothole there in the road. Trust me. So it would have a harder time going through the hard rock, so therefore it will try. I don't like this red water thing. I don't like that. Yeah. So my green marker disappointed me earlier. Let's hope I can find my blue marker. So I'm giving you examples. Giving you examples so that you can formulate your own opinions or make informed decisions. So if the water is on this landscape, then chances are it would not have an easy time cutting through. It would actually run through this area. And you might say, why is the water running sideways? Water normally runs like from north to south or something like that. Well, if this is hard rock and this is soft rock, it is going to flow through the soft rock. Likewise, if the water is trying to establish itself on this landscape, rain is falling and the water is cutting along the landscape, water will start to run on this soft rock more than the more resistant rock. Now, if continued over time, let's say these two are near each other. When the water reaches here, it will have a hard time trying to go through that hard rock. So maybe it would turn, maybe it won't be a sharp 90-degree turn like this, but eventually the water would flow here through the soft rock, and when it exits into another area of soft rock, it can't go that way because the hard rock is there, so it will flow this way. And in this scenario, the water is taking what seems to be a 90-degree turn. So therefore, don't say in your mind, you can't understand how water would be moving in an angular way like that. If there's hard and soft rock or different types of rock, one is more resistant and one is less resistant, then the water will more than likely take the path of least resistance. That is something I always tell my classes. Water always wants to take the path of least resistance. Just like how students sometimes don't want to do the easy thing all the while. Understand? If the problem get a little too hard, oh sir, I can't do that. No man. So this water would seem to flow sideways, then it seems to go that way. This water is flowing through here. So why did I do all that? So that you can understand that sometimes water, if it flows in an irregular way or an irregular pattern, something is influencing it or something is changing the pattern, because water always wants to flow the path of least resistance. So if the water is behaving strangely, something is actually causing it. Now in the type of drainage pattern that I'm trying to tell you about, it's called trellis. Trellis. Some books will be, be really grammatically correct and say that it's a trellised type of drainage. I believe CFC, once it sees that you have the concept and you know what you're talking about, they will give you the mark. They will be impressed maybe if you are speaking properly and you say it's a trellised type of drainage pattern. But once you have the concept here, so trellis drainage pattern is an irregular type of drainage pattern where the tributaries, they join the main river at right angles. So as you can see, it seems like, this is a 90-degree angle, this is a 90-degree angle here. So it's very easy to draw, because once you do something like this, that the examiner will know that you understand what the trellis drainage pattern is. So I hope you get my point. These are the tributaries, and they are joining the main river at right angles. Why are they doing that? Why is the water behaving so strange? That's because we have different or alternating bands of hard and soft rock. So for example, we are told, and only you're supposed to remember this, and if you're not Jamaican, maybe you're learning this for the first time. But if you are Jamaican and you are a geography student, you should know that most rivers in Jamaica run to the south, or for those that are on the northern part of Jamaica, they run to the north. However, there's only one river that runs eastwards in Jamaica. So that seems to break the norm. It's the exception. And it's very strange to see all the rivers going that way on the northern section of Jamaica and all the rivers on the southern section going that way to meet the sea. This river runs to the east, and it's found in St. Thomas, and it's called the Planting Garden River. That's the only river that runs east in Jamaica. Why does it run east? I said if it's behaving irregularly, then there must be something that is causing this irregular behavior. What is causing the irregular behavior? There is a fault or a crack. Remember, fault is a crack in the earth's surface, right, where movement has taken place over time. So the water is trying to run to the south, but because there is a crack there, it flows into the crack and eventually starts to move eastwards in the crack, and that's called the Planting Garden Fault. Actually, fun story, the not fun. Usually when people say fun story, it is never a fun story. Weird. Anyways, so the Planting Garden Fault actually runs all the way from Jamaica all the way to Haiti. Yeah. If you don't believe me, go do some research, come back and comment that you actually found what I was saying is true. So the Planting Garden Fault it's the Planting Garden Planting Garden Enriquillo Fault, I think it's called. This fault runs all the way into Haiti from Jamaica. And that's why we are connected seismically. So when there is a major earthquake in Haiti, chances are we feel, because we are connected on that same fault. So for example, the large earthquake that destroyed Haiti, yes, it actually rumbled all the way into Jamaica. But just, I don't want to, this might be a sensitive issue. Some of the buildings were, let's say, they were weaker over Haiti, so therefore the earthquake had its way. Some of our buildings over here are much stronger, and we use earthquake resistant techniques in the building. So for example, we use rebar or steel in our buildings, and some buildings go as far as to use some sort of rubberized cement so that when the earthquake shifts, it doesn't snap the building in two. The technology over Haiti was not employed like that, and therefore they suffered greater damage. The last type of drainage pattern that we'll discuss in this video is called radial. Now, radial is the one that kids love the most, They seem to love to draw it, That's because it's pretty much simple to draw. And I guess CXC examiners, once you show that you have an idea of the concept, they will reward you for that. Now, if it doesn't look radial, then you won't get any points. But anyways, I said space is an issue, so we'll do it quickly. Anyways, so now this one looks kind of crazy, and how does the river go this way, that way, that way, that way, that way, that way? So if the river seems to be behaving in an irregular way, then we have to look at what is influencing or what is causing this irregular behavior. Now the river seems to be going outwards from this area, right? Notice no rivers are in this central area. So we can deduce that when the rain falls on this landscape, it seems to be running down that way, that way, that way, that way, that way. Now, what could cause such a crazy, crazy, crazy thing? What if there was a mountain here? Let's visualize it. What if there was a mountain here, or a hill, or a volcano, or whatever it is, but it's a high cone-shaped feature? Think about it. If this is the highest point of the land, when the rain falls on this peak, it will run that way, that way, that way, all different directions. Or in other words, the water seems to radiate from a central high point. So the water seems to radiate from a central highland point, whether it's a volcano, a hill, a mountain, whatever it is, and the water runs from that, and it creates what is called a radial drainage pattern. Now the radial drainage pattern looks like the wheels of a bicycle, or the spokes of each main river, and its tributaries looks like the spokes of a bicycle wheel. Somehow they just learned some bicycle wheel names. The thing that the bicycle wheel names spokes. Don't. Did you know already? Alright, if you didn't know already, I apologize. But the spokes of the bicycle wheel, they radiate from the central point, which is called the hub. So this would be like the hub, and these would be the spokes of the bicycle wheel. Arguably, this would be a very weak bicycle because it just has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spokes, but if we believe it, we can achieve it. So the radial pattern is formed around a central feature like a hill or a volcano, and that is why if you get a map from, let's say St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or Montserrat, or Not really a Jamaican map per se, but if you get a map from some of these countries in the Eastern Caribbean, then you might be asked the question, identify the type of drainage pattern seen on the map. And it's kind of cheat code that you already know that those islands have volcanoes heavily featured in them. So chances are those rivers will form around the volcanic feature or the mountain feature, and those would be a radial drainage patterns. But you have to look, you have to use your eyes. Map work, there's no getting around using your eyes. You have to use your eyes and pull out the information. So you have to, a big word would be compartmentalize. So you have to see like how a geographer sees a map. We see the blue and we kind of take out the blue, and we know that the blue refers to water or water bodies, and we see the greens would be land, and if the greens move into browns and purples, those might be highland features. So once you start to understand the conventional symbols of the map, then the map work is less scary. But you have to use your eyes, you have to look at the map and you have to interpret it. So if it looks like a tree all over the place, dendritic. If it looks trellis, you can't make any mistake with trellis. Trellis just jumps out at you and you see it perpendicular, 90 degree. So you would know a trellis. And of course, just like the others, if it looks like this, radiating from a central area, then we would know that it is radial drainage pattern. So I hope that this has made sense somewhat. I'm going to be talking about other ways that you can identify drainage, not necessarily drainage patterns. Just like what I just said, you have to use your eyes and you have to see the different parts of the map. So you know the different symbols, what the symbols mean, and if you don't know, there's always a key on the map that you can verify what you think is on the key. So everything on the map, let me not just say, I'm sorry about it. Remember I said that I have flu right now, so my voice may sound a little weird, my nose may be dripping, I may cough. Sorry, my apologies. But I got a little free time, so I made a video. So you have to see the different things for the map, what each color means, and then you start to pull out and pull the things, like those future movies where they're doing this and they're extrapolating information seemingly out the ear, like Minority Report and those type of movies. Anyways, my brain acting like that. So we're going to be talking about describing drainage, describing or identifying drainage on a map, not necessarily just drainage patterns. So we're going to move into that. And I think I see my class lining up outside, so